I'm opening. We have an eye, sort of a nostril, 2 teeth. One of the teeth has a small cavity. Close call, folks, but I think we got here just in time.
Presented by Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro. This is Anatomy of a Movie. In-depth discussions and breakdowns of various movie titles. And now that you've seen the movie, let the dissection begin.
Hello, movie fans, or shall we say, let the dissection. Let's kickstart this dissection.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ow. Good segue.
You like that? Thank you.
That.
Thank
It's
you.
impressive.
It took me all morning to think of it. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another Anatomy of a Movie, where today we are going to dissect Wish I Was Here. Got a little subjunctive issue going on there, but that's okay. That's fine. I'll buy into it. This is yet another Kickstarter project, the second Kickstarter project that we as a group, as dissectors and lovers of movies, are going to talk about. So why don't we start off? I want you to know our panel of lovely ladies, starting my far right.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Chloe West.
Hi, I'm Roxy Striar.
Hi, guys. This is Sara Stretton.
And Marissa,
What's up, guys? Marissa Serafini.
who's going to chime in, and she's taking care of all of our, how do you say it, ones and twos?
Ones and twos.
Yes.
Ones and twos.
And I am Demetri Panos, and thank you very much for joining us. And why don't we just get right into I Wish I Was Here. And I'm very glad that we're all here. So why don't we talk about, well, first up, impressions of this movie.
I went into it really not knowing much besides, Zach Braff, Kickstarter, sort of the movie after Garden State for him. And I came out of the theater loving it. I cried a whole bunch. Happy tears and sad tears.
You had
in
the mascara going on
I
the
had
side.
the mascara going all down my face. But it was just lovely. It was a lovely film and really heartfelt. And I thought Zach did a really great job.
I love those movies when you walk out and you just feel like, yes, in your stomach. Like, yeah, that was worth my time. I really appreciated it. I loved this movie. I thought it was really good. I needed it that day, and and I just really, really, really enjoyed it.
What I would say is, first of all, I got so mellowed out by that music. I was like, oh, I don't know. I just relaxed into it. And
What, the music Marissa just played?
yeah.
It wasn't
Just
yellow.
getting us settled. No, I liked it. It was peaceful. But this movie, I think what I really enjoyed about it did come down to the beauty and the scene work. There are so many movies that come out and you're like, oh, that scene really got me. And in this movie, there was a ton of scenes that I thought were very powerful or very well written or had these just beautiful moments in them. And so that's what I was really happy with. I was just like, you could take so many scenes out of those movies and just like expand them and make a world just around these big moments and these like the emotions that everyone was going through. I really connected to it, and it did really impact me very to the heart, I guess.
Marissa?
I mean, yeah.
Because you just saw it this morning.
I agree. I just saw it, so it's recently fresh in my head. I loved the acting, and I loved the story because it felt like these characters were so real. Such a real family, and how they touched upon the humanistic qualities that any family could relate to. And I was very surprised by that. And I wasn't expecting, going into this film, I wasn't expecting like such a hard-hitting family drama. But it really felt like that, and it affected me, and I was like, that was really well done.
Excellent. For me, I looked at this movie two ways. Number one, and we're going to talk about this, it is a Kickstarter movie that Zach Braff took upon himself to go ahead and get the funding for this movie because he wanted to make the movie that he wanted to make, and I completely understand that. As a Kickstarter movie, the one that we talked about before was Veronica Mars. And I took some exception to Veronica Mars because for me, Veronica Mars, it looked like a TV movie. It didn't look like a theatrical movie. And I was having issues with that. If you're having people to go to a movie, make it look like a movie. This movie, same deal, Kickstarter, this looked like a movie. I mean, it played like a movie. It cut. It was cut like a movie. The cinematography at times, I agree with you, was beautiful, and it looked really well. Zach Braff's direction, I think he's a somewhat accomplished director. I'll be interested to see what he does next. But when you compare this to Garden State, now we'll go into the movie aspect. I like Garden State more. This movie I liked. I didn't love it as much as you fine folk in this room. I think that it was. I think there were a lot of threads that were thrown that they were put into this movie, and I think with just a little bit more massaging, and if we tighten this up a little more, we could have gotten a better story that could have been a little bit more impactful, because the attention was like all over the place for me. Yeah. It went from, oh boy, we got to take the kids out of school. Oh, we're going to homeschool. Oh, I got the brother who's, he's got the issues with the dad. Oh yeah, dad's got cancer. Oh yeah, the wife is having an issue at work with somebody who's sexually harassing her and she can't get into it. Oh, we got the daughter who's so into her Jewish faith, she doesn't want to leave the private Jewish school and be homeschooled, and she cuts her hair, and there was so much going on that I felt that in some cases, certain things were sort of kind of like left off to the side and never fully explored.
Like what?
Well, the homeschooling issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was just like sort of kind of like, well, what did they learn? What do the kids like if they took it a little more seriously? I mean, because they ended up somehow graduating and being able to get into their next class, because that's how we see. So that issue was sort of kind of glossed
a little
away.
bit.
Just out of curiosity, though, because you mentioned it, and everybody is mentioning Garden State. I mean, you can't watch this movie and not think Zach Braff, Garden State, whatever it is. You said you didn't like it as much.
Right.
I'm hearing a lot of, as opposed to saying I didn't like it as much, a lot of people saying I felt like it was a very similar movie, which I really didn't feel like it was a very similar movie. People are saying it was like just the same movie retold. Did you guys feel that way at all?
No, I didn't find it to be the same movie retold.
You just didn't like it as much.
Similar movie, yes, because Garden State, for lack of a better word, it was very deliberately paced. Like this movie is very deliberately paced. It's not like it moves along fast. You get drawn into it. It goes along in its own way. Garden State the same way. Garden State very character driven. But I found that the characters was a little bit more honed in. Like I got more sense of the character. It didn't seem as much frayed and like, did I need to be going down to Comic-Con even though I was just there and I had some non-flashbacks? But I just felt that there were scenes that may have been able to be taken out of the movie. I just feel that it could have been tightened up a little more. And, it would have been, for me, a little bit more impactful.
So if we're placing blame, just for pure sake of argument, do you think that's an editing, a directing, a writing? What
I would say directing, editing.
A little bit of both. I mean, Zach Braff made the movie that he wanted to make. What I very much appreciated about Zach Braff and making this movie, the studios are not making these kinds of movies anymore. Okay? That's just a pure fact. I've talked about it before. We've talked about it on Anatomy of a Movie. The studios are looking for the bigger, franchisable pictures that we can make. They're looking for like the big action movies or something that's a tent pole that I can make.
Something that's
10
coming from
to.
a built-in audience of
perhaps
comic or graphic novel or something.
And they're not looking to make a personal family dramedy, smaller movie. These movies are sadly to me, they're sort of kind of going away. And because you're Zach Braff, you're able to do a Kickstarter campaign, get the funding to make the movie that you want. And I think that theatrically, cinematically, we need movies like this because you need to fill in the gaps and you need to have good stories told. I think there's a good story in Wish I Was Here. I didn't hate it by any stretch of the means. Again, I'm glad that the movie was made. If there was, Zach Braff's whole thing is I wouldn't have been able to make the movie I wanted to make because studio intervention and whatnot. So in a sense, I can almost point a finger to the studios going, folks, you got to listen to your audience. You can make a good movie like this and people will come and you'll put some marketing into it. Don't forget about these kind of movies, because if you do, then we're not going to get movies like Wish I Was Here. To me, there were times that was I the only one that felt there was a little Descendants going on in this movie with the relationship with the father. There was the death that they had to deal with. I felt there was some Descendants going on. I like the family drama.
I actually like this movie better than Descendants, though, to be perfectly honest.
Wow.
I see what you're saying, and I like the Descendants a lot. I thought that this movie was so funny and interesting, and I'm not saying it was the most unique movie I've ever seen. I'm not saying that this story has never been told, or coming off of Boyhood, which we just did. I'm not saying that this is something that took 12 years and wow, we really saw these characters fleshed out. I'm not saying any of that. It just, for me, it just really worked. Individual scenes, like the first time when we see him trying to teach the class, and they're talking about the swear jar, and then they're talking about they're all these Jews, and they're talking about the Arabs, and the boy says that really mean thing about like shooting the air, just everything. I was like, I don't know whether it's just because I can relate to it because I'm Jewish, and a lot of my friends grew up Orthodox, and it's just like this weird dynamic. But I just thought they really, really got it.
I just felt like I got such a vivid picture of what this family was and who they were to each other, and I could see where they were going, and I could kind of figure out where they'd been. And in exploring their family dynamic and what they were going through, I felt very satisfied. I felt like I knew who they were to each other. I felt like I could picture this family going to a theme park together or doing something else. Like, I knew them well enough to be like, oh, these characters would be interesting if we took them on a trip to, Alaska. Like, you can picture those characters in these situations because they were fleshed out to me. And you just know, you feel like you know them.
Yeah. It was nice. The characters were really developed, and the relationships between all of them were really developed, and it just made it so enjoyable of like, what's Zach Braff going to make them do next, and what's he going to try, and how is he going to mess this one up or fix this? And I thought the dad really summed up the movie at the end when he said, like...
And by the dad, you're talking Mandy Patinkin's character,
yes.
correct? Okay.
Like that, oh, wow, you did your best to hold this family together. And that was really, I think, what the movie's about, is just the family dynamic and watching... slice of life, watching this family, and through Zach Braff's character of trying to hold his family together, trying to follow his dreams and keep his dreams alive, and at the same time having a family and all the dynamics that this family has.
Being atypical, like, it's not your typical family. It's a little bit different. They do have like the other subplots of him being an actor and people pursuing your dreams, and what a relationship, like a loving relationship versus a friend relationship between your partner.
Right, and I agree, and it didn't get lost that there was these little nuances, like I thought this was the weirdest thing, and for a while I was like, why did they put this in? And I was like, because I'm still thinking about it, and that's how people work. The thing with the contact lenses, how he keeps it in the jar.
I love that.
I love moments like that where I'm like, people are weird and quirky, and they have weird things, and it's kind of important to know that about people.
Yeah, we're talking Gabe's contact lenses
in the jar. That was
nice
kind
scene.
of freaky.
And it was pulling out. I'm like, oh, this looked like contact lenses.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
they're
like, that's
contact
kind of
lenses.
disgusting.
Weird things like that I think that usually get skimmed over in movies because you don't have time to spend 2 minutes talking about somebody's contact lenses or like a weird habit that they have that they actually spent the time to dive into. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that scene as well. But see, I think that scene was I thought it was important to this movie because it was
talking about how you look at life.
About how you look at life, and he's seen through. These are his eyes. This is, in a sense, this is Gabe's history, and how he remembered it. Again, I'm just saying, I felt that it was so fragmented at so many times.
I agree with that for
pull it
sure.
in a little. It didn't need to be close to 2 hours. I almost wish that they could have shaved off maybe 15 minutes or so. But
was there a moment where you were like, "Oh, this is too long"?
Yeah, there was a scene.
I thought the long scene at Comic-Con, them walking. Of course, that was funny, but it wasn't necessary.
Sort of funny. I didn't.
It wasn't really necessary for me. No. I mean, showing him at Comic-Con, I think, is important in the fact that he drove from Comic-Con. He's there to get home, but...
Yeah, man, he made it home in record time. I tell you? Especially leaving San Diego during Comic-Con. But in any case.
But yeah, like, I think it was just... I don't think that scene was completely necessary. And things like that. There were a few scenes that could be cut.
There's a couple things that I think could get cut, but that I gave it that gave the film character and identity. for instance, they did add in some special like trick, like the Comic-Con scene. There's that slow-mo sequence,
Yeah.
and then there's a bunch of like montage musical areas that almost feel like music videos. There's one in the middle, there's one at the end, and then throwing in all of the
sci-fi things.
sci-fi of him in the moon suit, as well as the kind of sci-fi-ish like programming of his brother's head, the identification of parts. Like those things,
interesting.
they
Yeah.
technically could be cut and it wouldn't affect the storyline of the movie too much.
But I thought,
But I liked them
yeah.
because I felt like they were unique and they didn't necessarily all go together, or all the styles weren't like a genre.
Yeah.
But they were fun. They were fun to see.
They reminded me of little things that I did as a kid, you know, and sometimes things aren't as cookie cutter or you could script it. Like, who would think, he has this weird vision and then his brother ends up kind of being part of that vision, or all those. They're things that are kind of weird. And of course, yes, you could take them out and it would still be a movie. But I feel like at its core, it does have this weird, quirky element to it.
Yeah, I would not cut the sci-fi things
No,
at all.
neither would
Absolutely
I, because
not.
that was almost the framing device,
Yeah.
or the bookend device, and I didn't mind that at all. But one scene, there was like one scene, and I get it was sort of nice, but when they were in the laundry room together, for me, just sort of kind of ran
the
a
man
little
and wife
long.
moment of them reconnecting.
Well, yeah, but it just sort of kind of ran
I
along,
loved
and I liked
that.
it better when they were in bed. And then there
That
seemed to be a
too.
looping issue, though. When I saw it, like, because his mouth wasn't moving yet, he was saying dialogue. I noticed, but
Oh, that didn't
that's
happen.
just,
in
Yeah, I
but-
actually those two scenes that you just mentioned, just because you talked about them, I want to say a little more.
sure.
When she comes up behind him and he's like, "What are you doing back there?" I just thought that was so endearing. Like,
Yeah, no,
because we hadn't seen this couple as like an intimate couple, really. You know, we've seen them and they
You hadn't
argue
found the
and
love
they-
yet.
Right, they work well together, but this really sold it for me. Like their chemistry was great, and then the scene in the bed. I know Sarah felt similarly, which she can talk about. But I just thought the Khaleesi part was so freaking funny.
Yeah.
Same
And he's
here,
like,
yeah.
"Who role plays after sex? I'm that brown dude." Like it was weird. And if you don't watch Game of Thrones, maybe you wouldn't understand the reference. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people understood the
Yeah.
reference. I thought that was just like one of the funniest things I'd ever seen.
I was
No,
dying.
it was, I don't know if I was dying as much as you, but
It
I
was
liked
so
it as well.
endearing. It was
yeah,
just
it was.
endearing,
Yeah,
and,
like, that's a
and you
movie.
learned more about the characters and their relationship with each other, and
Right.
And that they
Nice.
watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So they do watch TV together.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking, I thought, again, Zach Braff does a good job. I think he's, again, comparing it to Garden State, he's not necessarily an in-your-face director. He does take his time to tell his story and his character, and he does something that we're really not used to today. He gives his characters a lot of dialogue, so there's a lot of talking going on in
Yeah.
this movie, which is fine. So
There's a lot of
there were
talking.
parts of it that reminded me of, like I could say, it reminded me of Descendants. There were parts of me that reminded me of Woody Allen. There were parts of me. He again, I just wish a little more focus next time. But I respect the fact that he did make the movie that he wanted to make without the studio interference.
Yeah.
And and again, I don't want to see these types of movies go away. So, good for Zach Braff for doing that. I thought the performances were really good from all the family. Kate Hudson, to me, we've talked about this a little bit before. I think it was her best performance literally since Almost Famous.
Yeah, no,
Like,
Zach
no
talks
joke.
about that as well in an interview, and he's like, when I saw Almost Famous, she blew me away. And I think this character is the closest to that character that she's played, because she's been in some, mostly rom-coms
Yeah.
since then.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days type thing.
Yeah,
Right.
which she does great in. But
Right,
when
of
it
course.
comes to these, like, heartfelt, really down-to-earth, like, different girls, because she's not really playing, like, a classic stereotype wife
No.
at all.
No,
And
no,
she
absolutely not.
nails it out of the park. I loved her as his
Me
wife in
too.
this.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have ever cast her. I don't think she would be the first to come up when you're thinking about a Zach Braff.
I forgot how good of an actress she was, because my opinion is her rom-coms, I don't watch them. I think they have taken her down to a level that she doesn't deserve
Rom-coms
to be.
are rom-coms. You know what I mean?
But
you
you
don't
know,
need
her,
to, like,
her mom, Goldie Hawn, was able to, like, she could do a Private Benjamin kind of a movie, or a Foul Play kind of a movie, or Seems Like Old Times. and she's funny. She can be heartfelt. I think that you can be in a serious movie like this one, and you can still be a little bit funny. And her smile.
It was
infectious
very.
to me, too.
How do I describe this? So they say, everyone has a type. What you walk into the room as, and her type is typically more of the fun-loving girlfriend,
Bubbly, yeah.
bubbly. And this is Kate Hudson's version of a mom. It is very her.
I just felt like she was like living like her, and she was just breathing with it,
Yeah, it was so great.
Not even just reciting it, but just she showed up and just was present and there and speaking and living. I thought she did a great job, but for me, I thought that the little girl Joey is the breakout character of.
Absolutely.
I think she is the next Dakota Fanning, like in the way that I think she is so talented. Everything
And stunning.
every expression she makes, just to be so young and so talented. It baffles me. Like, that's not a training thing. That's a natural talent thing. I think she carried this. Like, she was so good in my opinion.
I think their father-daughter relationship carried a lot of this movie.
Was amazing.
I agree. No, Joey King as Grace Bloom was excellent. I thought she was really good, and I did like her. To me, I wasn't as big a fan as Dakota Fanning. I was, again, just going back to Descendants, her character did remind me of Shailene Woodley's character in Descendants, where she had a little bit of the rebellion against her dad, but that relationship sort of kind of nurtured a lot through this movie with Zach Braff, with Aidan Bloom. And I thought Zach Braff was very good. Zach Braff seems to be one of those polarizing kind of actors. Some people really, really, really hate the guy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I see some people.
Some people hate him. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. He never did anything to me. He
He's
owes me
so
some
his
money,
own-
but I know
He
he's
has
good
an
for it.
interesting way of talking. I
think he's just so his own character. I don't understand how you cannot like him as an actor. He's so much, like you mentioned Woody Allen earlier, like he's such a staple. He's so him. Like,
some
that's
people
why.
don't like that.
Yeah. He plays
Some people
himself.
don't like actors who play themselves. Like it's
that's dumb. All actors play themselves
I don't
unless
think
you're
it's
an
a-
extreme character
I don't
actor
think
like
it's
Johnny
dumb.
Depp.
I don't think it's dumb. I agree, though. I think that he's amazing, so it's very hard for me to see because I think that he is so good. But if I didn't like him, then I wouldn't like
you're not
any of the
gonna
things
like-
he did because he's always pretty
It's
much
like a lot of
it.
people say that about like characters like Johnny Depp, or it gets said a lot
No,
about
Johnny
like
Depp
Anne-
is a character actor. He
Nope.
doesn't play himself. Julie Roberts is the classic.
Yeah.
Plays the same girl in
and
every
like
character.
Adam
but-
Sandler and like
I mean, we can go on this
Yeah.
debate, but I'm just, like, for Zach Braff, he does have his haters, and it's really weird. I could never figure out why. I never hated him. I think he's good. I don't think amazing is a strong word to put to Zach Braff. I think he's likable. I think he's personable.
He's
and
great at what
entertaining.
he does.
And so, but I want to the hate topic. We'll come across this because now we can start getting into Kickstarter a little bit. I remember it was about a year ago. I'm going to use this, and it was bookended. In April last year, he went on the Howard Stern show and he announced his Kickstarter campaign. It was the week in which he announced his Kickstarter campaign. And it was like, hey, man, good for you. Whatever. I think that's, that's pretty good. And he sort of explained, he was explaining why he was going through this route. He started to get some of the most vicious hate calls. Like, people were calling up while he's on the air going, you ass, like, why can't you, like, afford to make your own movie? Don't you have enough studio connections to make, why do you have to ask your fans to, like, to make your movie for you? And, like, I was driving to work and I was, like, sort of surprised. Then Seth Rogen got on his ass about, like, oh, come on, man, he's good enough. He's been doing this long enough. Why does he have to, like, take it from his fans? And I was like, holy crap, how unfair. Like, this is, like, he wants to make his movie. And this is a new thing. It was not too long after Veronica Mars, when they hit Kickstarter. This was sort of a byproduct of that, because Veronica Mars came out, and then they hit their goal really quick. And then he came out, and he hit his goal relatively quick as well.
Well, his goal was 2 million, and they made it over 3. So
and yeah, but he had so many haters, and then now he comes on Howard Stern again just a couple of weeks ago, not too long ago, talking about it, and he's like, "Well, you took a lot of heat for it." He goes, "Yeah," and he mentioned Seth Rogen. Howard Stern mentioned. He goes, "What about Seth Rogen? Like, what do you feel about that?" And he's like, I got nothing against the guy. He goes, "But I'm not him. Like, he makes different movies than what I'm trying to make." he can get the backing for a studio. He's not producing, he's not directing, he's not, he can be writing and everything, or he is producing, but I apologize, I take that back. And Seth Rogen
He's
does
not
produce.
directing.
Yeah, and he's not necessarily, the studios are backing much bigger budgeted films than what I'm trying to accomplish
Zach
here.
Braff's not. Also, he's not making as much money as Seth Rogen,
True,
who's in a
and that's what he
movie.
said.
He's in like 5 movies a
goes,
year.
yeah,
As opposed to Zach Braff, Garden State came out 10
years
years
ago.
ago.
And he's
Scrubs,
had-
of course, along the way, which was here and then there, and then bouncing networks and whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not a consistent paycheck, and I think when you have artwork you want to make, and you have a fan base that wants to see it made, and they want to give you money.
Absolutely. And again, I can't begrudge him that.
Yeah.
And again, within
don't
the
get
10
that.
years, he tried a couple of projects to get off the ground, and every time, right at the near end, something fell apart. He couldn't get it done. And finally, he just said, the studio system doesn't work. He goes, I'm tired of it. This way I get to be my own CEO. I get to call my own shots. I get to do what I want to do. I'm working with some producers that I've worked with on Scrubs and Garden State or whatnot. And so I say, hey, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not everybody's Zach Braff.
Right.
Like, I want to see more of these movies made because they are going away and the studios aren't funding them. This is such the old-fashioned way of making a movie.
People who have stories to tell.
They have a story to tell. They make the movie. They go to a film festival, Toronto, Sundance, whatever. They sell it. Somebody buys it. I mean, this is how Juno is brought to life. This is
Right.
how Little Miss Sunshine comes out into the marketplace and does so well. Now, this movie may not do as well as, but I applaud the effort.
That's what I have to say. It's like, to all the people who have given so much hate, it's like, but he did it, and to me, he turned out a good product. And
I think it's like if you
if you have a
bugging
dream,
on
why?
it, and if you're bugging on him,
Don't
like,
give him
don't
money.
Give him money.
Don't give him money.
Like whatever.
But everyone else can give as much money as they want to him.
Yeah,
It's
if they
their
wanna see it
choice.
made, then, and if they trust his artistic vision, then and they're gonna go see the movie too. So
Yeah.
And what was
And
cool,
that's what
I don't know
people
if you
it
guys
matters about.
stayed till the end credits. I stayed because I was like, you know what? I wonder if he's gonna thank all those people, and he for sure did. At the end of the credits, all of these names pop up. Special thanks. I'm sure it was like one of the levels of the Kickstarter.
$10,000 got you a credit in the film.
Yeah,
That's
so
what it was.
there were tons of names. It was awesome.
I think that people who are so angry, not to say Seth Rogen is jealous of Zach Braff, because that's not what I'm saying at all, but people who have so much hate, I don't understand. Where does this hate come from? Like, what is that emotion? And in the same sense, maybe somebody can explain this for me, because I'm clearly in the minority in thinking this movie was so amazing, because I'm just looking up on Rotten Tomatoes that it had a 40.
40%.
Oh,
yeah,
I mean,
did a 40%.
I just think that is so harsh.
I
Do
think
we
that's too
that
low.
Any of this has to do with that? Do people just not? Some people don't like him or don't like how he handled this, so they're rating the movie like that. Like a 40%. To me, this didn't have to be your favorite movie, but a 40. Like,
Yeah, that's
I don't know.
Well, no, harsh would be a 13. 40 is sort of kind of mid-level, I think, like 40 to 50. To me, if I was rating this on 4 stars, I give it a solid. For me, it's like a 2.5. It's almost a 3, but not. Again, I like the movie. I didn't hate it. I appreciated some of the scenes and what he accomplished. I like the family drama. I just wished it was honed in a little bit more focused, so that I got just a better sense and maybe not as maudlin as certain things played out. But again, he didn't turn out a bad movie at all, and I can't begrudge him. You said, if you don't like the guy, just don't contribute, but let him be. And I don't think he was taking advantage. He was no more taking advantage of his fans as Warner Brothers Home Entertainment was taking advantage of their Veronica Mars fans to make that movie.
I know.
Okay? And I'm going to say one more thing. If only Warner Brothers, and I said this during Veronica Mars, had Warner Brothers shown Veronica Mars a little bit more TLC than what I think Focus showed Wish I Was Here, some tender loving care. So they made this movie. It looked like a movie. Maybe Veronica Mars would continue on as a theatrical, but they didn't. It was driven by home entertainment. That's a big thing here, not necessarily by Warner Brothers distribution.
Right.
It was the home entertainment department. So that's what they were trying to gun the money for.
Right.
This one did not go VOD. 600. I think at last check it was at the very least 600 locations.
Right. I think that this movie made so many references to the way you view something.
Sure.
To the lens. They talk about the fishbowl. They talk about the goggles that he wears to block the light. They talk about those contact.
I love that
I love that
part.
too. They talk about the contact lenses in the thing.
That was a good part.
There were so many references to how something is seen or how you see something that it was clearly Zach Braff like saying over and over again, like, it matters. It matters how you look at something. It matters how it is made. It matters who sees it and how it is seen. So I think that if the studio had taken over, they say they had a $6 million budget, so half of that came from Kickstarter. If the studio had put in all $6 million, which it didn't seem like they were going to do, it would have been a completely different movie with cutting this and doing that, and that doesn't need to be there, and how do we sell this, and let's put Kate Hudson's face everywhere, whatever it is. I was so happy that he made a point to be like, this is, it matters.
Yeah,
it matters.
And again, yes, it does matter. And Zach Braff had said, it's hard to make a movie in Hollywood. He goes, because what you get a lot of is, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, what do you mean? I don't get it. Well, what if you change this? And he got it. He got the script that he and his brother had written, and he didn't want I don't get it.
He doesn't want to change it so you get it. He wants to show his story and his point of
'cause
view.
He gets it.
Speaking of that, can anybody talk about Adam Braff a little bit? I mean, I don't know much about the guy.
Other than he's Zach Braff's brother, and that they
Yeah.
collaborated on this. This was one of their projects that they wanted to do. They did talk about how, in a sense, they are sort of kind of different personalities. But, one like Zach says, I'm a procrastinator. He goes, and sometimes we would argue. That was funny, too. Like, did you argue on set? Did you argue while writing? And he said, yeah, all the time. Because he wouldn't like when I wrote something, and we'd have arguments. We'd take 10 seconds, and then we'd come back. And they worked out, and again, it was the movie is a family movie. I think this movie is a family effort, being that they're the two brothers. Okay, some of it seems to be, without knowing their lives, not knowing who these people are, autobiographical.
Yeah, I mean, he's an
Right.
actor playing an actor.
Yeah.
Right, and
Fair enough.
I mean, he's like not a successful actor
Yeah.
in the film where
Sure.
he is successful, but who knows about Adam Braff?
Yeah.
Maybe it's very much a Wahlberg family type thing.
dynamic.
You don't know, but it's obviously he's pulling from his life or maybe one of his friends' lives. It's a very LA film. Except traffic doesn't exist in this movie,
No,
which
it
bothered
sure
me.
as hell doesn't.
I
I
was
know.
like, how did they get to Santa Monica so fast?
But I'm thinking, what school do they go to Milken? Which Jewish
Yeah.
high? But anyway, I was thinking about that and thinking about the acting thing. I wanted to piggyback off that because we haven't really spoken about how funny I thought the auditions were.
Oh
and
my
and
God,
outside
I
the
loved
auditions.
them.
So this is where we saw our major cameos and the fact that I don't know. I always picture people in Hollywood that are established, like Zach Braff calling up his buddies, being like, "Do you guys want to come sit in this room and pretend to be actors for a little bit?" And all these famous actors come and fill the room. But we had so many. We had and James Avery, who said that this was going to be his last movie. This is his last appearance. I love also every time that we see his name is Leslie David Barker, and I just thought it was so funny. And of course, Jim Parsons from Big Bang, and the advice that he gives to him in that scene alone, and him being like, "Why are you helping me?" And him being like, I don't know. I think that is so true to life and awesome. Sometimes you just turn to the person next to you and want to give a helping hand. It's just who you are. And I felt like the fact that he even wrote that in is a testament to who Zach Braff is. And I feel like he is somebody who is very giving and does want people to succeed.
And it also went with the whole teacher arc, which you
Right.
get from him being a teacher to his kids and being horrible,
I
to being a
loved that
teacher
arc.
and being
so cool.
good and passionate
Right.
and finding
absolutely.
it
I
Or
thought
those
that
who
was
can't
really
do
interesting.
teach.
So, and then when they're all sitting outside, and clearly he's like, "You didn't get the call from the agent. It's only black people. Come on."
Right.
And they're like, "Damn!" And he tries to be that Spanish guy, and I was like, "What is this, 22 Jump Street?" But then I was like, "All right, actually, it's still pretty funny." I just thought the
It
audition
was
part
funny, but it was sad. That
Yeah.
part, begging for
I
a
know.
job, and
I know.
that part was it was of course it was funny, but you're like, oh,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
what
it-
you just said, that's something that they say here. Eventually, things get tragic enough that they circle back to be comedy. And I was like, "Yep,
Yep.
yeah,
that's what that moment is."
Yeah.
Given enough time, and since I looked up Adam Braff, and he does have he works in the art department. He's a set dresser, so he's worked on movies like Spanglish, like Big or The Wedding Singer.
Right.
He worked on Leave It to Beaver, Waiting to Exhale. So he's, he works as a set dresser.
He has a career.
Yeah, he has a, he works. And, I think, again, from the family aspect, it's good that the both of them got to work on this together. And like I said, I did get a sense there was something autobiographical in certain sense of the words. Maybe they lost a parent. Or maybe
brothers and the dad, and yeah.
Yeah, and in some ways, you can't, unless you've gone through the experience. He was able to nail emotion and sympathies and sadness and what it meant. And I like the almond bar, kind of thing. And, I wish there was a little bit more of, I always forget his name because now he's forever Olaf.
The
From
brother.
Frozen.
Yeah.
Josh
Gad. But I like Josh Gad. And so, yeah, I think that Zach Braff unnecessarily, I don't know why people hate him, to be honest. He doesn't come off as smug to me. I've heard him in interviews. He's likable.
Speaking on the almond bar,
Yeah.
I think that's the strength of this movie that extends also beyond that prop. And I like this detail that people add is when there is an emotional center to a prop. So the almond bar is one. Also the wig throughout the film is another and writing in those things that are a visual symbol for us to link onto. You have the almond bar, you have the wig, you have the goggles that we talked about, you have the cost. Yeah, exactly.
The what?
Drill.
The drill
Yes,
the little kid
I
has.
loved that
Under the
that
pillow.
was his thing. It was a
Amazing.
drill.
But those little visual things that, they're not always in dialogue, but they're with them and they carry them through the film and they mean something. And when she's wearing a wig or when it changes, it varies and it affects the feeling you get from watching it. I like that he utilizes those components of filmmaking.
Yeah, and I think it just goes back to his strength as a writer and creating characters. Like we said, these characters are so strong that we can connect with them. And we could see these characters really do anything if we'd enjoy it.
And I'll say, he did something very similar. He did the same in Garden State. He drew up some really good characters and he had good performances. And he did, and that movie was backed by, if memory serves, I believe it was a Paramount Picture who funded the movie, produced it, and put it out for him. And Garden State came out. It got some good reviews, good press. It did really well. Personally, I'm surprised that it's taken him 10 years to make a movie and that he had to go do it on his own.
I really think the basis of this movie was, I'm going to make a swear jar. I'm going to make a whole movie around the premise of a swear jar and when to use it.
Yeah.
You can almost guarantee that those are little things that were in his childhood. The swear jar,
Sure.
the dog named Kugel, which I thought, I was like, oh my God, that's precious. The fact that he was raised Jewish and all of these things, he probably was raised thinking some of these rituals are absurd. That's not me trying to insult anybody's religious beliefs. That's just me speculating what his beliefs are.
You don't like Greek Orthodox. You've said it before.
I think that it's very, very interesting when you can take things from your life that you lived as a child and you step back and you're like, what was going on here? What was this? And like you said, I love that he says he just wanted people who got it. There's so many, I don't get it. And
yeah, and
that sticks with me.
he has another great quote too, and where one of the things he says, one of the things I've learned in my success has been that yes men are completely useless. And yes, Hollywood is filled with a lot of sometimes you just wonder why did something happen in Hollywood, or how does it get made, or what decision, how did you come to that decision?
Yeah.
Because you're surrounded by people who go, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. When it's the worst idea in the
All
history
it takes is one person to have a bad idea, and then everybody doesn't want to say anything to them. It's yep, that's what we should do. And it's how did we get to this conclusion?
But he goes on to tell this story about one of the producers on the movie, definitely not kissing his ass, and it sort of kind of drove him crazy. Because she would keep on going, look, I got something you should read this note. And he kept on saying, get away, you're driving me fucking crazy, swear jar. And then finally he put the movie together, and when he put the movie together, he's like, damn it, her note's right.
Yeah.
And he comes back and he says, okay, you win. Yeah. You're right about this. There are too many of that beat. If I take this out, it's so and he seems to, well, he gets directing, I think. You know, he's learned. You know, he was, Scrubs was how many seasons? 7?
Oh,
a lot, right?
8 or something, yeah.
So, you know, he knows what he's doing. And I personally, you know, for Kickstarter for him, I also like how he says, I'd never do it again.
Yeah.
And he goes, it was too much work. He goes, it's a lot of work. He goes, for somebody, he goes, I have lots going on. He goes, I couldn't handle it. And it was a great social experiment. And I wish he didn't say experiment, because I don't like to feel as an audience that I'm being experimented on. And I didn't necessarily
But
in this
at
movie.
every point, there has to be new avenues. And when he did do the Kickstarter, he's one of the big names that's going to be attached to the beginning of Kickstarter and how
Right.
they were successful. And so experiment kind of fits.
Yeah, you know, it's sort of, I just like, you know, not everybody's Zach Braff. And there could be good stories out there. And maybe they, you know, perhaps they're not going to make, they won't earn or get $3 million, which is a great sum when you think about it. And who would think that people would, again, I'm going to go with, Veronica Mars was a very popular television show. Zach Braff is just an entity. He's a man, he's an actor. And for people to give him $3 million, he does have a fan base.
Oh, of course he has a fan
They
base.
want to see him.
I mean, people were completely obsessed with Scrubs. They got it back on the air, and then I loved the little nod to it that he has Turk on in this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
I
best
love it like that.
friends.
Yeah, they're best friends, and people were kind of ripping that apart, like, oh, you cast her. Like, you're damn right. If I'm in Hollywood and I'm successful enough that I can cast my best friend in something that is also a working, talented actor, that I'm going to. And
Everyone does that.
yeah, I just think whatever. I just think
It's
that it is what it
loyalty.
is.
Everyone does that. But what I want to talk about is the music.
Yeah.
Because Garden State changed the game in the music industry
Everything.
with
Sure.
just the style of music. I mean, it like that soundtrack is one of the biggest soundtracks
Ever.
10
Well,
years
it,
ago.
well,
So
and it's a Grammy
good.
Award winner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
and
the
so-
shins and then the shins
Sure.
in this one, and it's
It just-
amazing.
all the music in this whole film, again, I'm sure he felt pressure to really like have it be like Garden State, because that was just so huge. But they did a great job. They really, everything fit well, and I like kudos to them. That was awesome.
Yeah, he did. You know, the Grammys interviewed him for this movie, and he had a great story about when he was going to the Grammys. He didn't take his dad, and his dad's like, "Oh, come on, I really want to go." He's like, "Dad, come on, I'm going up against like Quentin Tarantino, Kill Bill, you know, Volume 2." He goes, "Come on, Dad, I'm not gonna walk away with anything," and then he ends up winning. and the father kept, I can't believe you didn't make me go. He's
It's
like, you know, but
amazing.
he said, my jaw dropped. So he sort of kind of went back into the well again. And all these people, like the Shins, are his friends. And
Yeah.
he's like, I'd like you to help me out. I got this other movie, and
And-
it's Kickstarter. And they came through.
Of course, the
You know.
Shins, Bon Iver, Weepies, all these like indie bands that have big names now.
Coldplay and Cat Power.
Yeah,
together.
absolutely.
And-
And it's not obscure enough that he tried too hard and it was like, how do I top Garden State? It was understated but beautiful. I just think he gets music and how it can enhance a piece.
For his movies,
For his
absolutely.
movie. He just gets that. So
absolutely.
I think he did a great job again. And it's another soundtrack I will be purchasing.
And do you guys know how much, because it was a Kickstarter, how, like, if these musicians, you know,
Are making
donated
money?
themselves, or like Kate Hudson, like, she wasn't on the
she's
producer, she didn't
taking
get a
a-
producer credit. So
No.
how much of a cut did she take? Because $6 million, like, that's, I feel like her usual price stamp is
Yeah.
for a rom-com is probably 6, 8, 10 million.
Yeah.
well, I mean, you know.
That, I did think about that during the film, like, these are big actors.
yeah,
are
or
saying,
even after
okay.
Homeland with there are a lot
he
of
had
these
Mandy
people.
Patinkin.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the story Zach tells is that he ran into him and had like a fangirl moment and was like, "Will you please read my script? I want you to be in it." And Mandy was like, "Of course."
Yeah.
He like read it and loved it, and so that was like a sort of fangirl moment Zach Braff had with him in New York. But
I just think that it shows that some actors aren't all about the money. A lot of actors,
Yeah,
you know what I
it's
mean?
great.
Like okay, you can afford to give me $200,000 for this, which for other people is a lot of money for them. They could spend a year of their life doing something and make so much more. I just think it's worth it for them if they believe in a project.
And you know, and they'll 9 out of 10, perhaps they give it to a charity. You know,
Yeah.
they are. It's like you said, they're doing it out of maybe they respect Zach Braff, maybe they are fans too,
Yeah.
and maybe they appreciated the written word. And they said, you know what, we appreciate and we respect what you're doing. Of course I'm going to help you out. Now, I don't know the relationship that he has with Kate Hudson. I don't know how that necessarily all came to be, but I just think that their show of support really helped this movie.
Oh,
Great,
yeah.
because it elevates it. It elevates it to, because they weren't working for necessarily a paycheck, but they gave it as if they were getting a big style paycheck.
And what I'm also going to point out, though, is I do think that this came, particularly Kate Hudson, came out of a respect for the project, respect for the work. On her end, it's also probably pretty smart, because we have seen her in a lot of rom-coms lately. Maybe she is being typecast more. Maybe this was a role she's been looking for and hasn't really been
Right.
put on her plate, because she gets put in the perky
Absolutely.
girlfriend, sweetheart
Right.
role, and this is maybe more what she wanted, and so she was maybe willing to take that pay cut because she was like, but this is actually something that I want to show.
It's
Absolutely.
interesting that when you guys think about her as rom-commy, and I know Marissa can back me up on this because we cover AfterBuzz's Glee here, and has been a huge role on Glee. So I recently think of her as like this hard ass. Like she is this like bad girl dance teacher who is like mean and a bully and ripped and sexy and
Sexy. I think she's
I don't
always
watch
been
Glee,
oh
sexy.
yeah,
so,
sexy.
yeah.
Sexy is not a new
It's
word.
sexy. It's the sexy that's like sexy and funny, but sexy and funny is all rom-coms are. Is sexy and funny, sexy and
But
funny, sexy and funny. And so she's like the queen of that.
I think she's getting to be. I think she's getting to be smarter though with the movie she's taking. I think that probably Almost Famous happened. She was big enough that she had all of these offers, didn't know which ones to weed out. Took a lot of
Doing
things.
rom-coms isn't bad.
No,
I
no,
don't
I'm
think
not-
we should say
not-
that, like
I
in the
didn't say
sense
it was
that like
bad.
she's making bad decisions doing
I don't
rom-coms.
think
I never said that it was a bad decision. I love rom-coms. I love How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I think she's great. I'm
Not
just
all
saying
of
that
them have been great, though.
not all of them
And
have been great.
I think they,
as in all
more
genres.
may have hurt her career because she's not the draw that she used to
I'm
be.
just saying that
anymore.
sometimes people get sick of doing the same
That's
thing
all
over
I
and
was
over
saying.
again.
That's all I wanted to
Yeah.
say was that I think
Yeah.
that she probably made a lot of career moves that made it so she was pegged in a certain way, realized, I don't know if I want to be pegged in this way. Let me get a little smarter about the roles that I take.
Yeah, but I exactly. I just think that, she did this thing for a while. She was really great at it. She had a huge career in it, and she was probably like, "Oh, let's try this bubble over here." And they were like, "No, can you please just stay in this bubble?" Everyone knows about studio power.
right.
Like they're like, "You're good at this. People come.
Yeah.
They pay money for you here.
They
we
haven't,
don't know
though,
about
recently.
that."
Yeah.
And now,
they know that she can handle a movie like this.
exactly.
No,
So in that way, maybe it was a smaller paycheck. Maybe it's going to lead to other movies that are more maybe in this realm of her acting space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do we think she could play this? Just what just popped in my head, but something like in Blindside. Do we think she could take on a role
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that kind of mother, nurture, loving?
No, I mean, this movie, I because I had forgotten that she is a good actress, and I do. I'm going to say, a lot of those rom-coms did her career more damage, more bad than good, because it put her in such a niche, and some of them were just god awful, and they weren't making money.
Not a rom com guy.
I am a rom-com guy, especially if they're very
just
good.
kidding.
No, but I'm just saying some of the movies we could bring up her list of movies. Some of them were just not good, and that sort of when you're not bringing in an audience, and sadly, Hollywood looks at that as like you're no longer your box office poison.
Especially if
And-
it's where you're positioned to be successful in it.
and
If that makes sense.
You
Like,
have been successful, and once you start picking some not so good movies, you start to falter. Hollywood
you
can
or
look
your
at
agents
you.
or what studios
Right.
are pushing you.
So-
It's not just like Kate Hudson. All of this is your decision, and you have power over
Right.
absolutely everything.
And her relationship with Zach Braff, I don't know. It was a smart decision for her, and when I watched her, I said, "Geez, this is the best performance I've seen her give since Almost Famous." I had forgotten that she can be such a great actress. But you can be in a rom-com, you can be in a comedy and still be a very good actor. It's just the Academy never looks at comedies as being Academy worthy, but the acting in comedies.
What do we think about her across from Zach Braff as opposed to Natalie Portman? Just not that we need to compare them. I'm just curious because everybody loved Natalie Portman so much. Do we think that Kate Hudson lived up to that counterpart position?
It's so different.
Yeah.
I would almost say the daughter in this film was like the Natalie Portman type character.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
It's
she
like-
sort of fell into that gardens. Like if we are
Yes.
comparing it that much, the daughter is sort of that kind of offbeat. manic pixie dream girl, which
Right.
Zach Braff has recently apologized for creating.
Speaking of which, though, just because we were talking about the daughter, we haven't mentioned the son at all. Who
The son was great.
Yeah, and he's new. He's now in Halle Berry's new
Hilarious.
Extant.
He's an Extant, and he was in Looper.
Right, and he was in
the
Looper.
kid Looper.
I think he is freaking adorable
And hilarious.
And hilarious. And I'm like, you're a real little boy who's just adorable, and everything you say, I'm like, ha ha ha. Like,
Yeah,
I just,
great.
I thought that the kids, they had a great chemistry together, and they really helped. And it's very difficult to find child actors that have this natural talent.
Yeah.
Which I
No,
felt
I-
like both of them did, which
Both
helps
of
sell the
them
movie. But I mean, if they picked two crappy kids, it never ever would have worked.
No,
So
and they would have gone from being what they were to annoying.
right.
And you don't want the kids to be annoying. So I did look up, You Mean Dupree, Skeleton Key, My Best Friend's Girl, 9, Bride Wars, The Killer Inside of Me, Something Borrowed. Yeah, no, she was not on a clear career path, that was
Yeah.
going to begin to elevate her. Now, maybe Glee has helped her out. I haven't watched Glee. I don't watch Glee, but this movie definitely helps her out a lot.
Absolutely.
To your point, maybe now people will recognize and go, oh yeah, that girl that was on Almost Famous can act. And I would just look at, she comes from good genes, this one.
Yeah.
Okay? And
She does.
Her brother's on Nashville.
yeah, and I just,
She doesn't age.
You just
she
Goldie
looks
Hawn,
very
yeah.
good. Yeah, I had mentioned Goldie Hawn earlier, and Goldie Hawn is today, I think an underappreciated actress. She was able to really play drama. She could do great in comedy, and and I think that Kate has the same talents today, and she's very nice. One of my favorite scenes in this movie with Kate Hudson was the scene in which she was in the hospital,
Yes, that's the matriarch
the
scene.
matriarch scene. It was a great
Yeah, it's
scene,
And she
right?
beautiful.
sits and talks.
That was one of the
advice she
crying
gives-
ones where I'm
right.
like wiping my eyes like this.
What were the other crying
that-
ones? I'm very curious.
Oh gosh,
But
I'm
wait,
a
I just
crier.
want to just fit with Kate Hudson in that scene. She was so subtle, and you had, what did you call it? The
Roxanne talked about. We talked
the-
about how
the-
she's really good at the smile cry.
Yeah,
Yes.
the smile cry.
The smile
She
cry.
nails the smile
She
cry.
does, but she makes it
Like,
believable.
You're so beautiful, but you're crying.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm gonna laugh it off
and it was
with a
such a-
slight little.
It was such a touching scene because it was set up that the father, that Gabe, was not a big fan of her, and she admits that. Listen, when I lost
My
Her
sister.
my
sister.
sister, you were the most helpful man there. And he says, really, I had
I
no
don't even
idea.
remember what I
don't
said.
remember," and
It's such
and
an
it
interesting
was-
moment, especially
it
because we hadn't
was.
heard about that of the sister before. It wasn't
Yeah.
like thrown in our face. It was just a part of her life and who she was. And it's almost as if she had her entire own story too. And we find out little pieces through the surfing and them sitting at the lighthouse or the whatever that is.
The lifeguard
Lifeguard stand.
Yeah.
Hello,
And-
California.
And them talking and her saying, since when did this become all about you living your dreams and remembering that two people both have dreams, but that she's a whole human being. And then she comes to this point and she has this amazing advice to get or something to say to him. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a person with a life and she has been through it.
You mentioned the lifeguard scene.
Right.
Here's what this was a nice little bait and switch that I thought, and again, this is a part of the movie that I really liked. Prior to that scene, Zach Braff's character Aidan talks about his wife saying, "Oh no, she
Loves his job.
loves her job.
Yeah.
She's great at her job, whatever." And then when she sits down, she goes, "I'm a data entry person." She goes, "Hell, if it wasn't for the fact, they can't afford scanners." She goes, "It's the only reason why I
She says
have a
it's
job."
oversight. There's
Yeah.
just so many people here that haven't even realized that I don't even have a job right now.
Right, and I thought that okay, that brings a little bit of a realism. I really like that scene a lot too, especially that dialogue. When did
Yeah.
this become just about your dreams?
What
And-
I'll
Yeah.
throw to that scene on top of that, and it was a little bit of a bait and switch for me, is I expected that to be where I found out they were still super in love or
Yeah.
had chemistry, because it's at night and they're on the beach at a lifeguard stand, and you set that up to be a romantic moment, and that's where they have this kind of clash of she's not happy, and then when you do get that moment, it's like him doing laundry and like
And-
a back room.
I love that they
It's
get
not-
they get the call though, and it's like sometimes these moments you have to put them aside. Like that we didn't have that love moment that we were expecting to have. We had a negative, for lack of better words, moment, and then they get that phone call, and it doesn't matter even what just happened, or it does matter, but we can't deal with it right now. And we never really even quite deal with it. But then, as you're saying, there is that love moment. It was interesting. It was different. What do you guys think about the tagline, "Life is an occasion, rise to it"?
Oh, interesting.
Any strong feelings?
Life is an occasion. Rise to it.
I think that's sort of what the kids were. He was teaching the kids a lot of the time, and then what
and his brother.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know if he knew if he was learning that.
That's what,
the whole movie.
Yeah, that's what it's interesting to me, because I got that it was about family, and if you're putting life as an occasion, when I reflect that on him, I'm like, well, was your occasion to be a father because you did that?
Yeah.
Or you became that?
Well, he was
your
sort of
occasion
rising to being a good father.
Was your occasion, though, to be like a father? Like he did, I believe, a really good job of being emotionally there for his kids and kind of finding his own way. But it was against the typical what a father does, build the house, have the job.
Right.
And if it's like the occasion that I feel like people were putting on him was to give up his dream and to get a steady job. So that's a funny tagline to me.
Yeah, I felt, though, like his dream was just altered. He never gave it up.
Yeah.
He just had to just make a little tweak here, and look, I can be happy.
And you
I
can kind of
continue-
do both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But that, to me, again, sort of kind of wrapped up in a neat little bow, because it sort of kind of came, oh, by the ways, I've got this class that I happen to be doing, and you would be great at it. And I'm like,
It was a
like,
silly wrap up.
It was a little bit silly.
But it made sense for him to go that. It just made me wonder, why didn't he think of that before?
Yeah.
Because
Something
he's
that-
good at it,
Oh,
he
definitely.
seemed to be good at it.
I mean, he
And
didn't
also,
seem like he was.
why didn't he have a bar job, or why wasn't
Right.
he some kind of night job? And I did think it was interesting that there was no second job.
Yeah.
Well,
was
maybe
something-
because somebody
the
needed
wife
to stay home.
or-
I mean,
or
you had the
somebody needs
kids,
to-
but
Right.
the kids were at school. You're right. Why wasn't there an after while the kids were at school?
Which most struggling artists have, especially if you have children.
Yeah.
But because I know we don't have that much time left, I did want to talk about. I have raved about this movie. You guys know I think it's incredible. The thing that I was unsure of, and we are starting to touch upon it, was the ending, which was like a kind of montage of moments, and it starts with him lifting her trying to swim, and it ends with him lifting her up in the pool, and in between that, the moments. What do you guys think about the ending of this? Were they trying to put a bow
The
where
end
a
where
bow
there's
didn't
very little
need?
dialogue. It's a lot of music heavy, a lot
Yeah.
of...
What did you guys think about it?
I felt that it was trying to wrap up every single thread
Yeah.
that they had out there, and it all seemed to go back because there was a scene where the daughter had a full head of hair that
Right.
looked like her hair, not
And she,
wig
like, took it
hair,
off?
and then she took it off, and then it's black and white. Like there was stuff like that to me.
Well, in the funeral scene, she was wearing like a real
dark brown
wig,
hair,
like
yeah.
like a natural looking wig.
I was
Yeah.
glad they did that.
That's
I
a
didn't
good
want
one.
to see her in the
too.
pink
Yeah.
wig at the funeral.
But,
it was just strange series of images to me that I was like, I'm not sure what I'm trying. They want me to feel right now. I'm feeling a little like they're trying to put a bow on something that doesn't need a bow, and I almost feel like he could have taught her to swim. That could have been it, and that maybe could have been the end of the movie. Like she jumps in and she sees that she can kind of do it, and that was it.
And I thought he was good. I mean, I knew as soon as I found out that she couldn't swim, I was like, oh, she's gonna swim in her own pool.
That's
They're
what I
gonna fill
thought.
the pool. They've been
Yeah, I
working.
didn't-
They're
I
scraping
didn't
at the pool.
I didn't get what the hell.
Then what happened
that was
there?
weird. That was a weird thing. It's like, they shouldn't have boasted that they were going to Costa Rica for 2 months.
They
And
do
I'm
the
like,
fence.
fair
They're
enough.
making the fence, and they're scrubbing the pool. And I'm like, oh, they're gonna fill the pool. They created this. This is a teaching lesson. She can swim in the pool. Get ready. What? That was like a no-brainer.
That
to
was
me.
the one bow that Roxy wanted, and it wasn't
Well, I
tied.
It's just a
didn't get it,
no-brainer to me.
like-
Why did they? Whose pool? Why were they going there? Oh, they
Yeah.
shouldn't have gone to Costa Rica. What?
Yeah, I didn't.
What?
That was sort of weird to me.
And he
but-
says throughout, he's like, "Oh yeah, we've never used this pool. I've never." He keeps mentioning it, and I'm like, "Oh, I see where this is going."
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't like to see where something's going, but this was one of those cases where I was like,
Sometimes you want you
My
want it to be
prediction.
answered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they end up like breaking into somebody else's house.
Which was funny and fun, but like yeah,
as a
the
teacher
same
moment, not the best.
Well, at the same time, you're like, but they were unnecessary.
Oh yeah.
They liked
Fill
the
your
shot.
pool.
They wanted the
Yeah,
end
I
shot
do
of
think they
LA
wanted
in the
that.
background with the infinity edge.
Yeah, well,
That's
maybe-
what it was all about.
Well, maybe they didn't have the budget to fill the pool. I
don't know. Renting that house, I'm sure, was the budget to fill that pool. I did love the slice of Mumbai line, though. I thought that was hilarious.
So good.
Oh, your own little slice of Mumbai.
And everything he said, and all the, I know I keep mentioning the Jewish references, but when the daughter
Roxy
has
was
the
singing
friend,
along,
I was
by
singing
the way.
along. I know all these prayers, obviously, but when the daughter is there and she's saying they have money problems, and her friend's like, wait, I thought Jews ran Hollywood, and she's like, so did I. Maybe we're in the wrong tribe. And I just like lost it. I was like, oh, this girl who thinks she knows so much about religion and so much about the world because she goes to this Jewish school, but she doesn't really have a grasp on what's going on. She's so young. She just like learns all these things and shaves her head on a whim.
I'm glad they showed her shaving her head.
Yeah.
I'm glad they showed that at the end, because I was wondering.
That was a cool of the montage. That was probably my favorite.
I'm glad that they showed that. The montage really didn't bother me. I do felt like everything was kind of wrapped up quickly, but because
the brother becomes nice. He has a girlfriend.
They have a beautiful show
because
of Romeo and Juliet, which was mentioned earlier as a tie-in for Kate Hudson's line.
But it didn't bother me so much because the father story was naturally wrapped up. I thought that was the more important thing for me, was to see that.
Did you think the brother was going to come to the father?
Yeah, I knew that he would come.
Okay,
yeah, I knew they wouldn't end it without him being there.
Thank God. I was worried
scene,
for a second.
It's sort of like, I was like, really? You drove from San Diego still wearing that? Like, that's going to be like, again.
He was kind of weird, though. That didn't bother me.
Yeah,
It's
with
just like,
the
how do you
hoses,
fit in
that
the
would have
car?
been so uncomfortable. Like, how do you drive 2.5 hours going up wherever? But whatever. It was like when he showed up, finally. Like, it was a nice scene. Mandy Patinkin did a really good job.
Awesome.
Right?
He was great.
Yeah.
I think without him and Kate, it wouldn't have been as strong.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they were both so great.
I think he got the people that he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Listen,
What did I read about Anna Kendrick? She was cast originally as in the role that the brother was trying to see. The girl, I think.
who ended up being cast by the girl who's in
Ashley
Green?
Yeah,
Ashley Green, yeah.
exactly. Just throwing that out there.
I did think it was weird for Ashley Green to
Me
be
too.
that girl.
Me too. I kind of did too. I was like, this is a weird role. This is a strange.
She wasn't
role.
like weird
flurry,
enough for
fluffy.
me.
Yeah.
She wasn't like bizarre enough for me.
I think
and it
Anna
was
Kendrick
just-
would be a better choice for a strange thing like that, but she had conflict shooting schedule.
Well, we could start wrapping things up. I mean, I personally think that Zach Braff, to his heart. Look, I think he loves movies too.
Mm-hmm.
He's talked about it. I've heard it on the Howard Stern show. He talks about his love of movies and how he's a movie fan. Mm-hmm. And I also do, I appreciate the fact that he can sort of, in a way, stand up to Hollywood. He gets, some of the hypocrisy that goes around. And yes, like I don't get it. I respect the fact that he tried this and went to Kickstarter, because for him, that was his only option. I don't want Hollywood to make movies like this to go away on the wayside. We talked about Boyhood, too. Hollywood isn't looking to make these movies, even though they're important. They can make money. People do care about story. They really do. I think that Hollywood sometimes does
Exhibit
the
A,
audience...
B, and C, and D.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Hollywood sometimes does a disservice. Like, yes, you can make a great story with a comic book movie. You can make a great story, but you can make an original story too. That's what this business was founded upon. And when you look at the history of film, and when you look at movies that were made in the 70s and the 80s, you didn't start talking sequel until after that movie made like over $100 million. Like a movie had to prove itself to be sequel worthy.
Yeah.
And I don't want every movie to have a sequel.
And it doesn't need to. That's what I'm like. This movie doesn't need a sequel. And we need to focus on...
Wish I Was There, part 2.
that's what I was thinking.
Like, oh my gosh, no.
Wish
never.
you were
Wish
here.
Wish we
And
were there.
We on Pink Floyd. Yes,
wish you
absolutely.
weren't
I see it
here.
now.
I wish I wasn't there. Yeah,
Where am I now?
That sounds like all those vacation type sequel movies.
But I just think, let's think originality. Let's go out there, and if a movie warrants a sequel, then by all means, I don't have a problem with it. Let's nurture the storytelling. And Zach Braff, kudos to you for doing Kickstarter. You got your vision. Whether how much I love the movie or didn't love the movie, it doesn't care. You got your vision out. You didn't make a shitty movie.
This is what we say nowadays. You do you.
Yeah,
you, Zach Braff.
Yeah,
you do you.
But good for you. I mean, good for you for trying this, because you wanted to make the movie that Hollywood, the studios, wouldn't let you do.
And on top of that, for me, it was a success. So
Yeah,
good for
I
you,
think so.
and it was a success.
And I liked it.
And I liked it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so, and everybody here, and Marissa, any parting shots, words? You know, you liked the movie,
I did.
right? You liked the movie.
I
And,
think you said it all.
yeah, fair enough. All right,
Thanks,
folks.
Marissa Serafini.
Well, as we're going to wrap everything up here, please, well, thank you. Thank you all for being, like, this is a great panel. I think
Thank
we
you for
talked
being the
about,
captain of our ship.
It's my
Yeah.
pleasure. I think we've had, I think talking about this Kickstarter, I think this is an important movie to talk about.
Yeah.
So where can we find you?
You
Chloe?
guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Chloe West X.
You can find me everywhere at Roxy Striar.
You can find me here or at AfterBuzz TV.
And you can find me here, and a captain is only as good as his crew.
Aww.
So,
I am
love
the
you
captain
guys.
now. Look at me.
Look at me. And Marissa, thank you very much for the ones and twos. Appreciate everything. Folks, we got Guardians of the Galaxy coming up. That'll more than likely be our next one. We have to talk about that.
Yeah.
And can't wait. And we got a ton of other movies upcoming. It's going to be a great August, September going into October. Yeah, this is really jiggy music here.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us, on Twitter at Movie Anatomy, and
Thank
check
you.
out our website, Anatomy of a Movie.
And thank you for all the comments.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Keep commenting.
Keep commenting, keep watching, and thank you. Because without you, there's no us here. There you go. Bye, folks.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.
Thanks for watching Anatomy of a Movie on YouTube. For more on your favorite movies, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to let us know what you think in our comment section below here. Bye.